Hello students, and welcome to Lesson 3. Our learning intention today is to be able to calculate wages with overtime. So overtime is paid when an employee works more than the regular amount each week. So when an employee works overtime, a higher rate is paid. This rate of pay is usually called a penalty rate. So before I get into types of penalty rates are usually given to people who are like shift workers, like nurses or police officers, or if you work on a public holiday. Many of you are probably familiar with penalty rates if you have a part-time job already. So usually penalty rates are one of the following. It's time and a half, which means this person is paid 1.5 times their usual rate of pay, or double time, which means that person is paid twice their normal rate of pay. Depending on the holiday or the conditions, it could be triple time, it could be double time and a half. For example, if you were to work Christmas Day, you might be earning triple the regular amount of pay. So, how does this work in maths questions? Well, Gustavo is paid $15.78 per hour in his job as a childcare worker. Calculate Gustavo's hourly rate when he is being paid for overtime at time and a half. So this is a rather simple question. It's just asking, well, his normal rate of pay is $15.78. If he's earning time and a half, how much is he earning per hour? So recall time and a half means they're paid at 1.5 times their usual amount. So all I need to do is go Gus's regular pay, multiply it by 1.5, and I get 23.67. Writing my worded statement, Gustavo is paid $23.67 per hour when he is being paid time and a half. Pretty simple, that one. Let's look at a more complicated one. Adrian works as a shop assistant, and his normal rate of pay is $12.84 per hour. Calculate the amount that Adrian earns for 6 hours of work on a Saturday where he is paid time and a half. So, Adrian's pay will be his regular hourly rate multiplied by his hours worked multiplied by time and a half. So if it was just a normal shift for Adrian, it'd just be hourly rate $12.84 multiplied by 6. But he's being paid at time and a half, so I multiply that by 1.5. So I go 12.84 multiplied by the hours he worked multiplied by time and a half, giving me 115.56. Adrian is paid $115.56 for his work on Saturday, remembering my worded answer. Now, before I move on to the others, and look, again, you should be doing this for every single money question, is this a reasonable amount to earn in just one day? Does that seem like an amount you could earn in just one day? $115.56? Yeah, that is reasonable. I wish I earned that much. I barely earn that much in a year. But anyway, we're not talking about me. So, example number 3. This is when it starts to get a little more complicated. Natasha works as a waitress and is paid $14.80 per hour for a 38-hour week. Calculate Natasha's pay in a week in which she works 5 hours at time and a half in addition to her regular hours. So she's not working on a weekend, she's just doing extra shifts. And by law, if you work over the amount you're supposed to, your employer is theoretically supposed to pay you penalty rates. In practice, I realize that might not happen for all of you, but maybe that's a discussion for another time. Anyway, so the way I like to set this out is, well, Natasha's pay is going to be her regular pay plus her overtime pay. So her regular pay is pretty easy. It's her hourly rate multiplied by the hours she worked. $14.80 multiplied by 38, giving me $562.40. But she also got overtime pay. I need to add that on top of it. So her overtime pay, well, she worked 5 hours at time and a half. So that's her regular amount, $14.80 per hour, multiplied by the 5 hours she worked at time and a half, multiplied by 1.5, giving me a value of 111. I've color-coded it here, so hopefully that makes it pretty easy to follow where all this is coming from. Anyway, I finish my operation there, and I get an answer. Natasha's weekly pay was $673.40. And to me, that seems reasonable for a week's worth of work. All right. Yes, this is the last example. So Graham is employed as a car assembly worker and is paid $20.40 per hour for a 36-hour week. Okay? Easy so far. If Graham works overtime, the first 6 hours are paid at time and a half, and the remainder at double time. And this is pretty standard. Maybe if Graham worked 100 hours in the week, he'd be getting triple or quadruple time. You'll find it, look, again, I won't bore you with the specifics as to how these things are calculated, but this is standard. This can happen in a lot of jobs where the more you work, the greater your entitlements get. Anyway, So what's Graham's pay going to be in a week where he works 45 hours? So he's worked more than 36 hours. He's worked 45 hours. So he's going to get overtime. So as I've noted here, the question is asking us to determine Graham's weekly pay, but it doesn't actually tell us some important information. How many hours did Graham work at time and a half? How many hours did he work at double time? Well, I know he got 36 hours of normal pay, but he got a total of 45 hours. So the first 6 hours are at time and a half. So 36 plus 6 gives me 42. Now, he worked 45 hours, not 42 hours. So there's another 3 hours that he worked at double time. So to summarise, and hopefully you're following me here, 36 hours are at normal pay, then there was 6 at time and a half, as it says up here, 6 hours at time and a half, and the remainder, 3 hours, was at double time. So 36 plus 6 plus 3 gives me a total of 45 hours, which is how much Graham worked that week. So I've set it up in a similar way to the earlier one. Graham's pay will be his normal pay plus his time and a half pay plus his double time pay. His normal pay, $20.40 multiplied by 36, giving me $734.40. His time and a half pay, $20.40 multiplied by the 6 hours at time and a half multiplied by 1.5, giving me $183.60. And then his double time is his hourly rate, $20.40, multiplied by those 3 hours he worked at double time, multiplied by 2, representing double, giving me $122.40. Adding it all up, I get $1,040.40. Worded statement, Graham's pay for the week was $1,040.40. Is this a reasonable, and again, always think, does this answer make sense? Students, I know I'm harping on about this, but I have had students say things like people are earning $1,000 in just one day, or people earn $50 million in 1 year, because these students have rushed through their test and not considered their answers. They haven't stopped and thought, is this reasonable? So, is it reasonable to earn $1,000 in a week? Yeah, that is reasonable. I would love to earn that much. But for a typical worker, as a car assembly worker, $1,000 is reasonable for the week, especially if he's working extra hours. Alrighty, students, you know the drill. Heading to our textbook and completing the questions. Good luck.